Hello, everyone. I am so glad to be back with you today. I'm Ariella Morkowitz, the founding director of SVIVAH, which is about creating a more nourishing communal faith experience for Jewish women, where we define both Jewish and women very broadly. If you want to be with us, we want you to be with us and welcome. We love that we are multi-generational and diverse in who we are and how and when we come together, learning and celebrating and just discovering so much about each other, from the things that we discover that we have in common and the things that make us different. HerTorah is a SVIVAH program that is directed by the fabulous Rabbanit Eliza Sperling. It's dedicated to creating a comfortable space for our diverse community of women to come together over our shared foundational texts. Women who we might not discover organically, but using our Torah text as a medium for true community and connection building, and simultaneously coming together in celebration of some amazing, fantastic leaders and scholars and thinkers who bring us together and gather us over our HerTorah table. I'm going to first give a quick thank you to those who make HerTorah possible, obviously to Rabbanit Eliza Sperling for your incredible thoughtfulness and creativity and how you bring us together in community every single time that we gather. To Yeshivat Maharat, thank you for your partnership in raising the bar for excellence in Torah scholarship and elevating and valuing women's voices. And a big thanks to the Aviv and Covenant Foundations for their faith in HerTorah to create a unique way of learning and community. Now, we're doing something that's different for HerTorah. Usually in yesteryear, we would have gathered together in person. But even over Zoom, as we have been for the past many months, it's been such a delight and a gift to actually meet such a diverse room of women every single time, learning from each other, learning from our diverse group of teachers and educators. And this month, we're taking a real departure from how we gather together in community, but focusing instead in this crazy month of Elul that leads up to our high holidays to take advantage of the absolute wealth and richness of amazing women scholars and leaders and thinkers, and asking them to kind of join us in this crazy month of August, where I don't know where you are, but it may be halfway across the country enjoying the last licks of summer, or scrambling around getting ready for a new school year, whatever it may be, during the craziness of August, while Rosh Hashanah is almost upon us. We wanted to come to you and bring you some incredibly thoughtful humans who are thinking about this month of Elul in preparation for the high holidays to come, thinking really deeply about how they're approaching this new year and sharing a little bit with us what they might invite us to take into this new year with us as well. So before anything, and I get to introduce our fabulous guest for today, I'd love to encourage you to just hop over to our website, svivah.org, and sign up for our mailing list so that we can send you all of these fantastic interviews right to your inbox, and you can watch them, listen to them whenever you have a minute of time and want some inspiration as this month unfolds, or like me, you realize, oh, right, it's Rosh Hashanah in a minute. So you can do that. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. But today I am so grateful to introduce the amazing Kylie Unell, who I crossed paths with out of luck through just an amazing happenstance of being in the same upstart space at the same time. But I get to sing your praises for a hot second, so you can save your interruptions and blush for a minute, because I'm going to do that just for a second. Kylie is studying to be a modern day Jewish philosopher, which I totally love and have a soft spot for in my heart. You were named one of New York's Jewish Week 36 under 36. You are the founding executive director of Rooted, which brings Judaism to those in their 20s and 30s. I feel old, but I'm hoping and that it's okay for me to admit that I still find you inspiring, despite not fitting into those categories anymore. One of the things that made me realize, we're going to talk about your podcast at length, but really one of the things that actually made me want to invite you to do this and beg you to do this and ask really, really nicely to please let me glean and suck brilliance from you for a minute so that you can uplift us all, is that I saw that you were taking part and engaging with Rebekah Lowin's Elul prompts,
Yeah.
which I had discovered last year, which was so funny for me because I don't know her at all, other than being this amazing Instagram person who has amazing holiday, Shabbat, everything, tablescapes and fabulous things that my life doesn't look like, but I like to look at. And then I was shocked because she took this like awesome detour into this beautiful, sincere Elul prompt process that like
yes,
blew me away.
I love that you're saying this right now because she thinks of herself as the bringing beauty to Judaism person. And she has such an insane depth when it comes to life, but also Judaism. And she created these prompts herself. Like she created them last year. She created them mostly anew this year. Has a book of quotes basically that she draws from. Like everything that she does is all her, and it's the most magnificent thing. So I could honestly just talk for an hour about her and I'd be so happy to do that.
She's amazing. And I loved following along last year. And then when I saw that, like, whoa, you know her too, you paid attention to that also. It was like, it was such a detour. I think the piece that resonated so much was that she went off brand, which for me, like she took a break from the beauty that she creates and like making sure that, you know, whatever holiday is coming up looks gorgeous and something really cutesy for Purim or something like that, and took this really hard left and dedicated so much of her audience space to something that obviously was really important to her. And that's what always resonates for me, when it's like, this is obviously significant to you. This is something that has you want to share with others. And there's so much intentionality in what you're doing. This isn't about like getting more followers. Your followers are probably scratching their heads and going, what do you mean? Where are more apple and honey dishes? Right?
Yeah.
Like, and it was so genuine.
Wow. I can't wait for her to hear this. She's going to be blown away. Like she's going to go crazy when she hears these words. I already know her reaction. But I think what she's also doing is showing that beauty does not need to be void of depth. And that there's a certain association that we have, especially with Judaism. I mean, Judaism and beauty go together, but we don't often necessarily think of them. Like we think of them in the back of our minds as going together, but stores don't necessarily offer us the most beautiful things. So it's kind of like scrambling to put things together in ways that you can. And Christmas is the beautiful holiday, and like other things are beautiful, and like our Jewish holidays are not. So she's just opening up that space, which is amazing, but she's also bringing Judaism into it, an actual like tradition into it. That's what's remarkable about her, is that it's not just beauty for beauty's sake. It's beauty tied to tradition. And so the Elul prompts, like they fit because it's tradition and it's something that enhances your life. And then if you are more clear on who you are and why you're here and just connected to yourself, the beauty will come from that more easily. And she's incredible. I could talk about her forever.
I love that. That's so nice. Okay, please, you're gonna do me a favor and send my love her way and my profound appreciation.
I'm gonna send this to her. She's gonna go crazy.
Done. Maybe she'll figure out how to make my life magically beautiful in all the superficial ways that it's not. Deep we do, mess we also do.
Yes.
She manages to do both so profoundly. Okay, what you did was take her prompts this year and then start doing them and sharing your experience of doing them, and simultaneously create this amazing podcast with Tablet Magazine called How to Fix a Soul in 30 Days.
Yeah.
I want everybody to like hit pause, go listen to the podcast and come back and finish this conversation, because I've been so moved by the vulnerability that you've shown in doing this and inviting us all into this process. Like so many of the interviews that I've had the privilege of doing, for me, this is my Elul podcast. This is my Elul, where I get to actually sit with amazing humans and just listen and learn from what your experiences of Elul are. what you are doing to prepare yourselves for this year to come. And what's different about this podcast for me, what you're doing is not like so many of the other, like if I wanted to make my Elul more meaningful, I could go seek a whole number of scholars, guides, spiritual voices who would offer some insight or suggestion by way of how to use this time, this preparation time in advance of the high holidays. And it feels instructive, and that's sometimes helpful and sometimes what I'm craving. But what your podcast is none of that. Your podcast is a mirrored reflection of me. You're doing the exact same thing. You're just inviting the world along for the ride as you engage with your own process of Elul. You're offering no suggestions, no recommendations, no guidance. You're just letting us walk alongside you. And it's something that's so, the words don't even capture it because you allow so much intimacy and so much vulnerability. It's so honest. And I'm still trying to process and find the words for myself of like, what is this evoking in me? Like how nice it is to have company for something that's usually so private and personal and self-reflective, filled with, shame and hard thoughts and confusion and disappointment and trepidation and all of the anticipation and prayerfulness and remorse, all of these words that are so hard to do even by yourself. Yeah. And you've invited us to like just keep you company while you're doing it yourself. And the idea, it's so gentle and warm. And it's like, I'm not doing it alone. Like just listening to you do the process is so heartwarming to have company and know someone else in their lunacy is also taking this seriously and is also doing the Rebekah Lowin prompts and is also doing all of these things because Rosh Hashanah is coming.
Yeah. And
I'm just so curious. I want to hear you talk, like, why the heck would you do this?
I've asked myself that multiple times because I'll get in the process. So the premise of the podcast is that every week I'll try something different to fix my soul. So we have this month on the Jewish calendar called Elul, which there's different interpretations of what exactly it is, but Jews like acronyms, and the acronym for it is Ani ledodi v'dodi li. I am to my beloved, and my beloved is, as my beloved is to me, and my beloved is mine. And it's a month where we're supposed to get close. Like we're supposed to get close to ourselves, look at God, and talk to God and to ourselves with compassion and forgiveness, and really like take a full frontal look and see what we've done in the last year, who we are, how that measures up to who we want to be. And the idea is that you do that work in order to go into the new year feeling like you're closer to who you are, like who you're supposed to be. And there's no instruction guide for how to do that, which is confusing because the Jews love instructions. Like our tradition is filled with so many books about how to do things, and like how many walls your sukkah should have and how tall they should be and how much matzah you should eat on Passover. Like, okay, it has to be the size of an egg, the volume of an egg or an olive, or like every single thing has something and it's so specific. And Elul's just like, cool, figure it out, find your soul, figure it out, and like, you'll be good. And I was so perplexed by this month that I was like, I want to do something that matters, because I think that who we are in the year is important, and like how it is that we connect to ourselves is like really important. And I've felt for a long time very kind of distance from myself, trying to get in touch but not really knowing how. And Elul is always this time where it feels like, okay, I feel like I'm accessing something. Like when I write or do things or answer the Rebekah Lowin prompts, like I'm actually working through things. But how can I do that on a higher level and really like change? And this year has been a year of just like really trying to work through like change. And sorry if there's construction in my apartment right now, so there might be some voices, but I decided to do the podcast because I am hungry for information. And the things that have had the biggest influence on me are projects where people just present themselves and like them in the process. And I think that in the world right now, we have a lot of examples of people who have made it and they go back and talk about their story. I think about like John Krasinski and like everybody else who was on The Office, who was like, oh, I was a page on Conan O'Brien and now look at me. And like all those kinds of stories about like where they were versus where they are now. And you're always like, really? Like, I know you're saying that you were a waitress at this place and you lived in a apartment with a Murphy bed, but I like have a really hard time picturing it. And it seems like it's oddly too bad off to be true. And so like we have that, and you never actually see the process. You have no idea where people really are or where they were. And people who have shown themselves in the process has like really been transformative for me. So there's a podcast called Startup, there's a podcast company. I guess it's called company or channel. I don't know, but it's a company called Gimlet. And Gimlet is run by this guy, Alex Goldberg, I'm pretty sure is his name. And he brought a microphone with him and recorded himself in the process of building up a company. And it was insane for me. Like I've built up an organization and done different things. And like, I feel so alone in the things that I'm doing, that to hear somebody who was just in it was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And he had an episode where it was after they'd already built up the company and they did these performance reviews, New York City. They did these performance reviews and like they brought somebody in and it was basically like therapy on tape. And like this guy like surveyed this therapist or business, I call him a guru or something, but surveyed like employees, Alex's family, friends, like really to get a full picture of who he was and what the things he was struggling with were. And Alex gets the performance review back and is going through it with his wife. And at one point is told that he could be more organized and he starts crying. And then he's with this therapist talking about his dad and like unpacking why it is that he did, like why it is that he struggles or why it is that he has an emotional reaction. And that changed the game for me. Like to hear somebody in the process like that was exactly what I wanted to do. And I don't think I realized what I was getting into when I signed up for this podcast in a certain regard. Like my last week, I just did Hippolyte, which is the act of going into nature and talking. And it's literally like I was there for hours doing it. Only, I don't know, 15 minutes of it, maybe even less, made it into the podcast. But I had to send that off to my producer, who was then going to listen to me singing and crying and speaking in French and doing all these different things because I was like, these things that I struggle with, I was working through, and it's just me. And then that was published. Like then that was out there for the world. And when I got like the demo of this episode, I was sick. Like I was literally sick to my stomach. And then I stopped and like really just sat with it. And I've just really come to a place of such gratitude because I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with is shame, in the sense that I am the only one who's struggling with what it is that I'm struggling with. And one of the biggest gifts of this podcast is the ability to process that every single episode. Because I start off with a story from my life of something that I did or something that happened to me, that when you're telling those stories, like you're processing them as you go. And what I've always wanted to do is help people feel related to. And I've never given myself that gift. I mean, up until now, for a long time, I hadn't given myself that gift. I wanted to give it to everybody else and hope that they'd return the favor and give it back to me, I think. But even then, I wouldn't really have been able to receive it because I wasn't really open to it. But opening myself up this Elul is showing me how far I've come, which is really cool. And I wanted that challenge. And I really wanted to like dive into the deep end and just be like, okay, we're going to do this. And I'm going to put it all out there because I have nothing to be ashamed of. And not only that, I'm actually struggling with things that a lot of other people are. And I really wanted to normalize that. And so I did it. So I just like signed up to do this, and I'm so grateful that I did. And I don't think I'm really connected to what this is, like to the fact that people are listening to it, and I have no idea who is listening to it, which is weird because I like control over things, right? I know one person, but I'll hear people say that they listen to it. People have messaged my mom saying that they listen to it. I had somebody who I'd grown up with, my mom's like best friend from a long time ago, messaged me on Instagram saying how cool it was. So I haven't actually connected, and it's hard. It's so abstract. Like I can't conceptualize who is listening to it, even if I tried. So that probably helps also.
Right.
But it's a gift. Like it's such a gift to be able to come out and talk about myself and to help other people see themselves in that and feel like they can be okay, because I've been given that gift with other people. And it's like an honor and then some to be able to do that myself. And it's a dream that I've had also. So I think as I was doing the heat boda dude, as I was talking to myself, I just realized like, this is so brave. Like, it's so cool that I'm doing this. And I'm just like, honestly, I'm grateful to myself for having the courage to do it. And yeah, I don't know.
It's amazing. So I'm picking up on two pieces here. So first of all, your idea of like helping others feel that they are related to, that's what this podcast screams. It's like the vulnerability and the honesty. Anyone who has this practice or does this during Elul or any time really, you're showing up in the moment and in the process with the rest of us, in the mess, in the confusion, in the struggle, in the, climbing through whatever it is.
Yeah.
It is that gift. You continue to do what you do of making other people feel related to. And I do hear you on the personal piece of having it be a personal challenge of, being that naked and feeling like, who's going to listen to what I have to say, me and my nakedness and authenticity, because to your credit, like you are really doing this. There's nothing performative of any of this. And it's so genuine, and it really comes through as, just a listener. But I'm going to push you and ask you to rewind a little bit, and just as the Jewish philosopher that you are and the incredibly thoughtful Jewish practitioner that you are, why?
Hold on 1 second.
We love all pets. All pets. Oh my gosh, this is dog number 5. No, we've had 1 cat.
Sorry?
We've had 1 cat and 4 dogs. Your dog is number 4.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is good. It hits on the perfectionism thing, so it's good work for me. Just always throw myself in the work.
As real as it gets. So my question to you is, you could have chosen any opportunity to be vulnerable. You could have chosen a different podcast to, create a different process to share. But what is it that's meaningful, that you find meaningful in Elul per se? And I see, or I hear, like, I'm looking forward to the next episode, that you're trying to have Elul be something for you.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what that is for you, and what you might, either in your conversations and thinking about what each episode is going to be like, what you think Elul is like for others, and how people can use it, or, what it means to you.
So I'll start by saying that God's role in the world, like the Torah kind of says, and I believe, because I feel like I felt it, changes over the course of time. Like our calendar really, I think, indicates where God is in relation to us. So you have periods on the calendar, like the 3 weeks, which is a period of mourning and destruction over the destruction of the temple, second temple, and the death of the students of Rabbi Akiva, who was a very famous scholar in his day. And that during that time, what I feel is God is like so much less present, like so much less available. And Elul is the opposite of that. And Elul comes like very close after the 3 weeks period, when there's a saying that says the king is in the field. God is present to his people and wants us to just come out and talk to him, and is there to really help us work through our problems, and work just is there to be a partner in our work. And Elul, for that reason, is a month unlike any other, where I think that just the energy in the air is really one of taking stock and of looking back at who you've been, who I've been in the last year, and thinking about whether I liked that person all the time, or when I did, what I liked about her, and what I did that was great, and celebrating that, and what I did that I could work on. And there's this kind of mentality of this work started during the SVIVAH to Omer, which is the period of counting between Passover and Shavuot, counting up to the receiving of the Torah, when the Kabbalah, the Jewish mystical text, says that there's a different element of attribute of God that's present in the world during the 7 weeks building up to Shavuot. And so I actually started doing kind of work at that point of just figuring out, like, what is it that I'm supposed to work on within the realm of humility, within the realm of strength. Like there's 7 different attributes, and every day has a different attribute. So I started thinking about this during that period, and Elul is just like that on steroids, where it's just like, you are going to work and you're going to make a lot of progress because God wants you to, like, because you're supposed to be your best self. And you can be your best self. So put the time and put the effort in, and you'll get something out of it. So it just seemed like a seamless thing. Like this was the most obvious time to do the work. And I'll also give huge credit to Liel Leibovitz, who works at Tablet as co-host of Unorthodox, and a mentor and a friend, who I wanted to do a podcast earlier and had different ideas for one. And he was like, wait, but Elul, this makes a lot of sense, Elul. And as I thought about it and really wrapped my mind around it, I was like, yeah, you're right. And I've already kind of done this because I posted my journey during the SVIVAH. So I've like kind of got the hang of this a little bit. That's what I thought. And I can fit into this. I can just like I can slide right into this. So just Elul being Elul, this like month of insane stock taking and work on steroids, it just made the most sense to do it now.
I love it, and I'm truly grateful for it. I think there's such a uniqueness in inviting community into something so hyper personal.
Yeah.
Because it's a recognition that we're all supposed to be doing this at the same time, but sharing what we're doing is not something usual. Yeah. And I want to thank you, because you've enhanced my Elul and allowed, whatever introspection that I'm doing to feel more worthy, like as you come to your own recognition of like the mess that I'm showing up as in this month, it's got to be good enough. It's got to get me to Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is coming no matter what, and this has to be good enough.
Yeah.
I'm appreciating that takeaway, and I'm appreciating that lesson, and you're giving me permission to say that to myself. So I need to say thank you to you tremendously for that.
You're welcome. And I'll also say there's something that Rambam, that Maimonides was a medieval philosopher and theologian in the 12th century. He writes in his Mishnah Torah, which is a compilation of Jewish law, essentially like Jewish law for dummies was basically what it was. Like, I'm going to take all of this, put this in a book, make it super straightforward, really easy, split it up into sections. This is going to be easy. You're going to get it. So
it has the yellow cover also, right?
It depends which, probably, yeah, sure. I don't know.
I'm like the rest of the for dummies, like the rest of the.
Oh yeah,
dummies
exactly. It has the
series.
yellow cover. Exactly. Yeah. But he proceeded. He was in 12th century. It already had the yellow cover and the face on it. He was ahead
Totally.
of his time. But in Hilchot Tshuva, which is the laws of tshuva, repentance, I think it's chapter 7. He says that there's one realm of repentance that God can't help us with. That tshuva, that repentance doesn't help us with, and that Yom Kippur does not absolve us of. There's one realm of like sins that God really does not touch, and that's sins committed against a fellow human being. The only way to rectify that is by addressing and talking to that human being directly. Only like man can solve his problems with man. That's it. God does not adjudicate or really help in that area. And so I think it makes Elul all the more important, because we all need to be taking stock of ourselves, especially like if we are going to have a healthy community, if we are all doing the work and open to what Elul offers us, then we're open to forgiveness when it comes up. Like we're open to the things that appear, that we're open to meeting other people and seeing other people as they are, and not holding grudges, and really allowing our community as a whole to really go through a kind of cleansing process. And it makes the work all the more important, and more important that we're all doing it, because the only way to heal our community, I mean, God can certainly help. God's capable of anything, but I think it does more for a person to heal their problems themselves as it relates to other people than it does just God waving a magic stick and being like, yep, that's it, you're good.
No, that's beautiful. And I think what you just hit on now is so much of what you're sharing, that the vulnerability that I need to achieve in order to work on my forgiveness, or to open myself up to, saying I'm sorry and apologizing genuinely, or whatever it is, that vulnerability, remembering that my partners in that, the other elements of that interpersonal exchange, are also doing the same thing, and are also opening themselves up, and are also finding that vulnerability. Like, I think hearing you do that is such a great reminder of like, yes, I'm feeling vulnerable, and I'm going to, put my tail between my legs and go admit my wrongdoing to so-and-so.
Yeah.
I don't always remember that they're also opening themselves up and allowing themselves to forgive and be more gentle and all of those things, because they're doing their Elul too.
Yeah.
And I thank you for reminding us all of that, and inviting us all in on this beautiful process that we get to join in on. I'm really looking forward to finding like the Unell series right next to Maimonides shortly.
There we go. Yeah.
Because that is my kind of philosophy volumes that I will pick up for sure.
Great.
Definitely. Thank you so much for being here today. I want to wish you a Shana Tova to you, your dog, your family, all the people you love. And to everybody who's listening, we hope that you'll sign up to get all of these episodes in your inbox on our website. But if we don't see you before Rosh Hashanah for another interview, we'll wish you a Shana Tova too. May it be a sweet one, may it be a good one, may it be a healthy one for all of us.
Amen. Amen. Thank you.